After 11 years of unwavering loyalty, laughter, sacrifice, and love, the man whom Amaka helped to rise from nothing sat her down in their exquisite Abuja mansion and uttered words that no devoted wife should ever have to hear. Not, "I am sorry." Not, "Thank you." Not even, "You have stood by me through all my trials." Instead, he gazed at the same woman who once sold her jewelry to support him. The same woman who had faith in him when the entire world mocked his aspirations and declared, "I wish to take another wife." Yet, that was not even the most painful part. What he said next, the rationale he provided for his betrayal, and the blame he placed on her would shatter the heart of any woman. For after 11 years of marriage, 3 beautiful daughters, and a life she helped him construct from nothing, Chief Oina looked his wife in the eye and stated, "You have only given me daughters." That night, the house was enveloped in silence. However, beneath that silence, a tempest had already commenced. And when Amaka finally replied, the entire family would believe she had lost her sanity because instead of retaliating, instead of shouting, instead of leaving, she acquiesced. But what no one realized was that Amaka's silence was not an act of capitulation. It marked the onset of something far more perilous. Before we proceed, if this narrative has already captured your heart, kindly like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who appreciates African stories, and remember to click the notification button so you never miss another poignant tale from African Tales by Sira. For what Amaka does next will render this entire family speechless. In the heart of Abuja, where opulent homes are concealed behind tall gates and luxurious cars conceal painful truths, there resided a woman named Amaka Oina. To the outside observer, Amaka appeared to be a woman who possessed everything. A stunning residence in Maitama. 3 delightful daughters enrolled in private schools. A husband who was well known and esteemed in business circles. Chauffeurs, domestic helpers, and fine clothing. A life that many women secretly desired. However, people frequently overlook something significant. A beautiful home can still serve as a prison. A wealthy husband can still inflict pain. And a family photo that appears joyful can still be deceptive. For behind the polished floors and designer furnishings of that mansion, Amaka had been silently suffering for years. She was not merely Chief Obina's wife, she was the woman who helped him rise. Before the wealth, before the cars, before the status, and before people began to refer to him as chief with both respect and fear, there was only one person standing by his side. Music, Maka. It is challenging. And if life were just, perhaps you would be correct. That should have held significance. Lose hope. Yet sometimes in this world, those who support you are the first to be forgotten when success finally arrives. Amaka encountered Obina 12 years prior at a friend's wedding in Gaki. At that time, Obina was not the self-assured businessman that people admire today. He was a struggling young man dressed neatly, filled with grand aspirations, yet with empty pockets. He possessed charm, ambition, and that unique manner of speaking that instilled hope for a better tomorrow. Amaka hailed from a humble yet disciplined family. Her late father had served as a civil servant, while her mother sold fabrics in the marketplace. She was raised to honor marriage, endure difficulties, and support the man she loved. When Obina assured her, "I may not have much now, but if you remain with me, I will create a life that will make you proud," she believed him. Not because of his wealth, but due to his apparent sincerity. And for a time, he genuinely was. They wed in a modest traditional ceremony. No extravagant hall, no renowned MC, no lavish procession, just family, prayer, rice, laughter, and hope. Their initial home was a small rented room in Gaki. The roof leaked during heavy rains, and the fan only operated when NEPA decided to show mercy. At times, they found themselves faced with the difficult decision of whether to purchase food or pay for transportation. Yet, throughout these challenges, they remained united. Or at least, that was Amaka's belief. She embodied the ideal wife that many men desire but often fail to appreciate. When Obina's modest electronics business faced difficulties, Amaka utilized her personal savings. When a supplier nearly brought him to ruin, she sold 2 gold bangles that her mother had gifted her. When the rent was due, she discreetly borrowed money from a cousin without informing anyone. She supported him quietly, not seeking recognition, but with the steadfast loyalty of a woman who genuinely believed that one day they would reap the rewards of their hardships. Gradually, that day arrived. The small electronic shop evolved into a legitimate store. The store expanded into 2 locations. This was followed by import deals, supply contracts, and connections with the government. Eventually, a warehouse was established, and then a plaza. Before long, Obina transformed from just being Obina to becoming Chief Obina. The same individuals who once overlooked him now stood in his presence. The relatives who had previously ridiculed him now sought his assistance. The elders who had never shown him respect now invited him to sit at the front during events. Throughout this journey, Amaka smiled, for she held the belief in her heart, "We have endured together, and we shall enjoy together." However, she was unaware that success had already begun to alter the man she had married. Initially, the changes were subtle, so minor that they were easily overlooked. He began returning home later, citing business meetings. He started to guard his phone more closely, claiming that clients had become increasingly troublesome. He began taking trips without providing sufficient explanations, stating that business in Abuja was no longer the same and that he needed to be more mobile. He ceased having dinner with the family, stopped laughing with the girls, and no longer inquired about Amaka's stay. Then came the temper. The man who once declared, "Darling, even if we are poor, I will never speak to you with disrespect," began to snap over trivial matters. If the soup was slightly underseasoned, he would raise his voice. When the children made noise, he would become angry. If Amaka inquired about his whereabouts, he would regard her as if she had committed an offense. "Must I inform you of every movement?" The first time he expressed this, Amaka was too shocked to respond music because that was not the man she had married. Nevertheless, she endeavored to remain patient. She prayed. She fasted. She participated in night vigils. She sought advice from older married women in the church. Some advised her, "Men change when wealth arrives. Exercise wisdom." Others suggested, "Avoid excessive confrontation. Just pray." One even uttered a remark that lingered in Amaka's heart like a thorn. Occasionally, when a man achieves success, the woman who endured hardships with him serves as a reminder of the past he wishes to forget. That statement pained her because, deep down, she feared it might hold some truth. Then the signs became impossible to overlook. A fragrance on his shirt that was not hers. A lipstick mark that vanished by morning. Late-night calls he took outside. A saved contact under a false email name. A hotel receipt hidden in his trouser pocket. And most distressingly, the emotional distance. Infidelity is agonizing. But do you know what is even more painful? When the person you once considered your safest haven begins to treat you as a burden. That was Amaka's true anguish. It was not merely the suspicion of another woman, but the gradual erosion of affection. He no longer gazed at her with warmth, no longer touched her with gentleness, no longer spoke to her as a wife. He addressed her as if she were furniture, functional, present, yet insignificant. And, because Amaka was a mother, because she had daughters observing, because she still hoped that the man she loved resided somewhere within that new arrogant exterior, she persevered. She safeguarded the tranquility of the household. She smiled at school events. She hosted visitors. She attended family gatherings. She donned elegant attire. She replied, "We are well. Thank God." Even when she was not well, even when her heart was breaking in slow motion. One evening, after putting the girls to bed, Amaka found herself alone in the softly illuminated living room. The house was silent, save for the sound of the ticking wall clock. It was nearly 11:30 p.m., and Obina had yet to return home. She gazed at the cold meal on the dining table, jollof rice, grilled chicken, plantain, his favorite dish. She had made it herself, despite the presence of cooks, because a part of her still held on to the hope that perhaps, just perhaps, if she took care of the small details, the man she loved would come back to her. At last, the gate creaked open. His black SUV rolled in, causing her heart to race. She rose, not out of anger, but out of hope. When he walked in, the scent enveloped her before his words reached her. A sweet, expensive perfume, feminine, not hers. Amaka swallowed hard. A long strand of hair on his blazer. It was straight and dyed brown. Amaka's hair was naturally black. Her fingers trembled. "Obina," she called. He halted, already irritated. "What now?" he snapped. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Who is she?" For the first time that evening, he turned to face her not with guilt or shame, but with annoyance. Then he laughed, a short, cruel laugh. "Amaka, you women and your unnecessary drama." Tears welled in her eyes. "I'm not fighting. I'm asking." He stepped closer, and what he said next felt like poison. "If I'm with another woman, what exactly will you do?" The room fell silent. Amaka stared at him, having anticipated denial, perhaps even anger, but not this. Not such blatant wickedness. He brushed past her and ascended the stairs, leaving her standing there, alone with a question she was too frightened to answer, because perhaps, just perhaps, she already knew. 2 weeks later, the day arrived, the day Amaka would never forget. It was a sweltering Saturday afternoon, yet inside the house, everything felt frigid. The girls had gone for additional lessons. The staff had been released early. Only Amaka and Obina remained at home. This fact alone made her feel uneasy. Recently, Obina had only sat with her when something significant was amiss. He entered the living room wearing a white capon, appearing far too calm and composed. He took a seat across from her, adjusted his gold wristwatch, and stated, "We need to talk." Amaka carefully placed the folded clothes on the sofa. "What is it?" He gazed at her without any softness or hesitation. "I want to marry another wife." For a brief moment, Amaka felt as if she had stopped breathing. The room appeared to spin around her. The glass cup in her hand slipped and shattered on the floor, yet even the sound of the breaking glass did not affect him. He remained seated, observing her as if he had merely announced a business decision. Her lips quivered. "What did you say?" He leaned back. "You heard me." Her chest constricted. "Obina, after everything," he shrugged. "Don't start emotional blackmail." Emotional blackmail. That was how he referred to 11 years of loyalty. 11 years of sacrifice. 11 years of marriage. Amaka's voice faltered. "Why?" Then he drove the knife deeper. He looked directly at her and said, "Because I need a son." Silence enveloped them, the kind that causes the heart to ache. Amaka blinked slowly. "A son," he nodded, then added coldly, "You have only given me daughters." Amaka stared at him in disbelief. Her daughters, the children she had borne in pain, the girls who lovingly called him daddy. In a single sentence, he diminished them, diminished her, and reduced 11 years of family into disappointment. Her voice trembled. "They are your children." He sighed. "That is not the point." Not the point to Amaka. That was the entire point. She rose slowly. "So, because I gave birth to girls, you wish to bring another woman into this house?" He did not flinch. "If you want to frame it that way." Tears streamed down her cheeks. Music, not loud tears, but the quiet kind, the painful kind. She believed the humiliation was complete. She was mistaken because Obina gazed at her and stated, "Her name is Sandra." Amaka became paralyzed. Sandra. Thus, there existed a genuine woman, a real face, a true betrayal. Then came the ultimate blow. And she is already expecting. Amaka clutched the sofa for stability. Expecting? The room began to spin once more. He had not merely cheated. He had constructed another future while still residing in the same house. A woman, a pregnancy, a potential son, a substitute. Her breathing became irregular. "Expecting?" she murmured. He affirmed with a nod. "I am revealing this to you now because I desire peace. I do not want drama. I wish for us to address this as mature individuals." Amaka nearly laughed through her tears. "Peace?" A man who has impregnated another woman and delivered the news home as if it were a formal announcement sought peace. Her voice escalated. "Peace. After doing this to me, he immediately stood. Lower your voice. She looked at him in disbelief. You betrayed me. You humiliated me, and you expect me to lower my voice. He gestured towards her. I am still your husband. Maintain your self-respect. Respect. That dreadful term men employ after they have already disrespected the woman before them. Amaka wiped her tears away. What precisely do you want from me? He replied without flinching. I want you to accept it. She released a shattered laugh. Accept what? That Sandra will become my second wife. Before she could even comprehend it, Oina picked up his phone and made a call right in front of her. Mama, come to Abuja tomorrow. Call my uncles as well. We require a family meeting. Amaka's heart sank. He was serious. This was not a threat, nor was it anger, nor a test. It was a plan already set in motion. When he concluded the call, she felt as though she was no longer a wife, merely a spectator to her own humiliation. He turned to her and said, I recommend you conduct yourself with dignity. Do not disgrace yourself tomorrow. Then he walked away just like that, leaving her alone in the living room, surrounded by broken glass, cold food, and a silence so profound it felt akin to death. That night, Amaka was unable to sleep. She positioned herself on the floor next to her daughter's bed, observing their breaths. Ada, age 10, was intelligent, reserved, and protective. Chisholm, at 7, was gentle and playful. Sto, the youngest at 4, still believed her father was the strongest man in the world. Amaka gently brushed Sumter's hair away from her face and murmured, What did I do wrong? No response was given, only the soft sounds of children sleeping. She reflected on the years, the sacrifices made, the prayers uttered, the insults endured, the way she defended Obina against mockery, and how she stood by him in public and in private. Now, however, she felt she was being replaced. Not due to infidelity, laziness, or failure, but simply because she had given birth to daughters. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Suddenly, she heard, Mommy. Adai was awake. Amaka hastily wiped her tears away. Go back to sleep, my love. But the children were not ready to sleep. Adai sat up and scrutinized her. Did Daddy hurt you again? That question shattered something within Amaka, not merely because of the words, but because even a child had perceived it. Amaka drew her close and embraced her tightly. For the first time that night, she permitted herself to weep in someone's arms, even if that someone was her own child. The following day, the family meeting commenced. Cars filled the compound, and voices reverberated throughout the house. Relatives from the village arrived, including 2 elderly uncles, mama, and aunties with sharp tongues and feigned concern. Amaka donned a simple wrapper and blouse, devoid of makeup or jewelry, with no strength remaining to maintain a facade. She sat quietly in the corner of the sitting room, feeling like a stranger in her own home. Then Mama Obina entered, resembling a queen arriving at court. She did not inquire about Amaka's well-being. Instead, she took her seat and stated, So where is the matter? Obina stood as if presenting a proposal, calm, composed, and confident. He declared his intention to take a second wife. He referenced tradition, legacy, family name, and a harmonious arrangement. Subsequently, he stated, I want everyone present to support this with wisdom. Support. Amaka surveyed the room. Some appeared shocked, others were inquisitive, while some had already taken sides. Then Mama Obina spoke, her words striking like stones. My son is not in the wrong. Amaka raised her gaze. Mama Albina continued, a man of wealth and responsibility requires a complete home. If one wife cannot fulfill his needs, tradition permits another. An elderly uncle cleared his throat. Yet, Amaka is a good wife. Mama Albina dismissed him. No one claimed she was inadequate, but goodness does not yield heirs. Amaka's chest tightened once more, as if her daughters were unseen. Then Mama Obina addressed her directly. Amaka, you have shared joys with my son. You have endured hardships alongside him. Yes, we acknowledge that. However, a woman who genuinely loves her husband does not obstruct his legacy. Amaka remained silent. Mama Obina leaned in closer. If you are wise, you will accept this and preserve your home. Many women lose everything due to pride. Preserve your home. What home? The one that is already crumbling. Then an aunt chimed in, at least he is informing you. Some men do worse things in secret. Another added, if the new woman bears a son, all of you will still gain from it. Gain? Amaka felt nauseated. Gain from her own degradation. She glanced at Ina once, hoping he would intervene, defend her, and recall her significance to him. But he averted his gaze. That was when Amaka realized this was not a fleeting phase. This was not confusion. This was a man who had already made his choice. Then the door swung open. Amaka turned, and her heart halted. A young woman entered. Tall, music, light-skinned, adorned with an expensive wig, carrying a designer handbag, clad in a tight lace gown, with a small but noticeable baby bump, a beautiful face, and dangerous eyes. The confidence of a woman who believed she had already triumphed. Mama Albina beamed. Come in, Sandra. Sandra is no longer merely a name. She embodies a real woman, a tangible presence, and a genuine threat. Sandra greeted the elders before taking a seat in Amaka's home, positioned directly in front of Amaka, with Obina sitting proudly, akin to a man showcasing a new acquisition. Amaka's fingers tightened around her wrapper. Sandra gently caressed her stomach and lowered her gaze, resembling a modest woman. However, for a fleeting moment, she glanced at Amaka and offered a smile. It was a small smile, cold, sharp, and triumphant. That smile conveyed everything. I am here. I bear what you could not provide him, and no one can hinder me. If pain were to have a visage, it would manifest in that moment. Eventually, one of the elders addressed her. My daughter, what do you have to say? Every eye in the room turned towards Amaka. Some anticipated tears, others expected shouting, begging, or drama. Even Sandra shifted in her seat, awaiting the response. Obina crossed his arms. Mama Obina observed intently. The atmosphere was so quiet that even the ceiling fan seemed to create a loud noise. Amaka rose slowly. Her heart raced. She glanced at Sandra, then at Ina, followed by the elders, and finally at her mother-in-law. For an extended moment, she remained silent. That silence heightened the tension in the room. Finally, in a soft voice that astonished everyone, Amaka stated, if this is what my husband desires, she paused, inhaled deeply, and concluded, I agree. The room erupted. What? She consented. Sandra blinked in surprise. Mama Obina appeared relieved. Obina wore a small, satisfied smile, the smile of a man who believed he had broken her. One auntie even murmured, good woman. She understands how to maintain her household. Yet, no one noticed something significant. For a brief instant, an unusual expression crossed Amaka's face. It was neither joy nor pain, but something else, something profound. Only one person observed it. A Dotsie, who had quietly entered the hallway, was watching from a distance. She noticed that fleeting flicker in her mother's eyes. In that moment, the child grasped what the adult failed to comprehend. Her mother was not defeated. Not yet. Perhaps not at all. Occasionally, the most profound betrayal does not originate from strangers. It arises from those with whom you have constructed your life. However, let this be understood clearly. A woman's value is not determined by her sons. Daughters are treasures, and loyalty should never be perceived as a weakness. That night, while Chief Obina slept soundly as if victorious, Amaka remained in the darkness, gazing at the ceiling. Her heart was shattered, her dignity tarnished, as another woman bore a pregnancy intended to usurp her place in her own home. Yet, for the first time, the tears ceased. Something had shifted. Something perilous. Something invisible to others. They believed she had capitulated. They were mistaken. For sometimes, the most silent woman in the room is already in possession of the truth. Amaka vowed that no one would dismantle her home without facing consequences. The true struggle has only just commenced. If you desire part 2, please type part 2 in the comments. Like, share, and follow African Tales by Sarah. The narrative is only becoming more intense.